So recently, I was asked about what I thought about the death of Rush Limbaugh, and I wasn't asked. I was sort of asked by someone, and they weren't sure that I liked Rush Limbaugh or not because maybe I don't know this weird impression that they get from some of these videos on this channel. Just to clarify, I'm not a right winger, and I wouldn't really consider myself a modern neoliberal either. And I'm against what's going on right now as far as the neo-colonial globalization or global. I hate to use the word globalist, but taking over the Democratic Party, the neo-colonials, neo-feudalism, technocrats taking over. Especially the past year, they've gained more power than they ever have with all these upward transfer of wealth because of the virus. It's like saying the word virus like that. So I have some memories of Rush Limbaugh. When someone dies and their family is affected or their friends, it is sad. Now, I'm not going to go as far as to celebrate or say that it's a good thing or anything like that, but I will say that Rush Limbaugh was a huge hypocrite, huge piece of shit hypocrite. Literally, of course. I'm losing weight, so I can say that I can make cracks on people's weight. He lost a lot of weight though at one point, but he was a hypocrite. Essentially he got busted. Sex tourism, which probably is trafficked. Some human trafficking involved with some of the prostitution that he used, and the drug. He was a drug addict as well for a lot of his life. Now, he obviously supported policies that would put people in prison for their lifetime with drugs, especially during the 90s. And he was obviously not a very positive force of change in the world. I do not like Rush Limbaugh at all. Now, there was another thing that I do remember, and I don't know if it's like one of those things where I'm tying to, falsely remembering or not, but people called him a racist and stuff, but this is really weird. A really weird moment that happened was when my brother got into Rush Limbaugh back in the early 90s. And I remember the movie Boys in the Hood came out, and basically it was kind of like Alex Jones predicting the Y2K thing almost. It was Rush Limbaugh was predicting this huge, and I don't know if I'm remembering this correctly, but correct me if I'm wrong. I might be misremembering things, but I swear it was Rush Limbaugh had this on the show, where basically he was saying that there would be this huge race war because of Boys in the Hood, and there'd be huge shootings and thugs and all the coded language that he used. Now, based upon a lot of what he said back then and what I heard on his show and how my brother reacted to these ideas, including using the N-word at times, I would say that even coming from a non-social justice warrior point of view, Rush Limbaugh could be perceived as a racist. And just the way that the vitriol that he had about this possible, I don't know if it was a race. I don't remember if it was a race war or some kind of gang takeover of the government or the movie theaters, or he was predicting all these shootings at movie theaters. I think there was a couple of shootings. I don't even know if that was I don't know if it was Boys in the. I don't know if it was all Boys in the Hood though. I can't remember it. In the early 90s, the gang stuff had gotten pretty over the top. Like a lot of the turf wars and all that, it had gotten pretty crazy. So it could have been related to Boys in the Hood. It could have been just kind of coincidental, and I can't recall. But there were a couple of shootings, but there wasn't some huge surge in shootings at Boys in the Hood screenings or whatever. And it was stuff like that that Rush Limbaugh was just, he was always talking about these kinds of things. He was like Alex Jones, but the target often was ordinary people instead of corporations or the government. It was like he was predicting all these things would happen. He was a shithead, in a lot of ways. So, um, no, I mean, make no mistake if you're watching this, that I do not like Rush Limbaugh. Um, I never did. Once in a while, maybe he would make some kind of thing that had, basic common sense. Because, all these people, all these grifters, I think he was kind of a grifter too, honestly. There was that movie made in the 90s about him, that was based on him a little bit. I think it was, who played, it's about this radio show guy that was like a right winger, but he wasn't really a right winger. He was doing it more as a grift. And this bunch of like liberals would like literally eat like right wingers for dinner. I can't remember the name of the movie, but I think who was in it though? Cameron Diaz was in it, I believe, and some other people. But it was an interesting movie because the guy at the end was like kind of the Rush Limbaugh character. At the end was making a case of like kind of a centrist case in the movie. It was kind of interesting, but no, I think it's like, well, yeah, he wasn't the most healthy person either with all the drug addictions, and probably had some bad diseases and stuff from the sex tourism, quote unquote. I think a guy like that used protection all the time. It was pretty horrible. So no, I think he was I think he was a shithead. Do I think he deserved to die? No. I mean, it's just one of those things. But yeah, I did this video basically because someone was actually questioning whether or not I was a fan of Rush Limbaugh, and I was like, what? Why would you think I'm a fan of Rush Limbaugh? Just because I'm against like having to like have lockdowns for 5 years, I'm a fan of Rush Limbaugh. That's kind of a weird logic to try to make, weird connection to make. No, I don't like Rush Limbaugh. I never did. Tucker Carlson occasionally says some things that make sense, but then he kind of pollutes that. See, a lot of these people will make some good points to kind of pull people into these ideological, tribal affiliations. So Rush Limbaugh might say make something make sense to pull something. It's not a conscious thing necessarily, but they'll say some like half truths that'll appeal to people, and they'll be like, "Oh, listen to Rush Limbaugh. He's a common sense guy." That's what my brother said at the time, and my brother later got out of that. So thankfully, at the time he was like kind of getting into wanting to be like some kind of a Bill Gates. I mean, this is back when Bill Gates was cool to people, not as like this evil conspiratorial guy. He like wanted to be the next Bill Gates for a while, but he kind of quit that and he got a divorce and stuff. And then he wanted to be a rock star, and he had this vision that he would be assassinated as like a prophet and all this stuff. I mean, my brother had some issues, nevertheless. It's kind of funny, but yeah. So Rush Limbaugh, no, I don't like him. Never did. Like I said in previous videos, and people know this, that I did used to be a fan. I was a fan of Alex Jones at one time, but that's a different story. Completely different, especially during the Bush years. I mean, Alex Jones probably would have called Rush Limbaugh like the epitome of evil at the time. And I think he did, actually, because he thought those people were, the establishment and all this stuff. This is back when Alex Jones was, now Alex Jones would say, well, he says some good stuff, and or something like that. He's in the company of Alex Jones, sadly enough. But that's about all.